It was always, as we started that end, Arnott's. Only once a year, sometimes we'd go into freezers. For the primary school I was at, they were the only ones that had the blazer and the school cap. So from there we'd go to the old Lewis's shop, which is now, was Debenhams, and then from there we would carry on and then to the shop C&A. And then from there round into Goldberg's, because usually when we stopped at Goldberg's they had a wee tea room and like that there, so Mum was what we'd class as a tea Jenny, so that was the last pit stop. I can remember when they were in there they had a set of glass doors. I can't remember how many, but I just remember a row of glass doors. You would go in like as there, and then they would have another set of glass doors taken into the shop. But in that wee sort of foyer area they used to have stands with the mannequins on it. So you would go inside and you would have like a set of stairs, and then the main stairs taking you upstairs, and you had another set of mannequins on this sort of dais type of thing. So I would just sit on this dais thing. It was just a nice size for me. I was that sort of small, my feet were always dangling over the edge, so I had a bad habit of just swinging my legs back and forward, and one time I must have done it too hard and the mannequin came toppling down. So the parents are trying to put it back up and explaining, and the assistants coming and said, it's okay, it's fine and stuff, and I'm absolutely mortified.
And we moved over to Kirkcart. The shops I remember, there were 2 dairies where I later did a milk run for with the crate, £1 a week, it was big money. And so there were 2 dairies, Morton's, and there was a butcher shop, a co-op on a corner, and my brothers and sisters could give you the number, their co-op number. There was a cobbler's, my daughter's laughing when I say that now, shoe repairs, a fruit shop, and there was a wee cafe, a fishmonger's, a hairdresser's called Servades, and at the top end of Homely Road there was a tobacconist. But on the corner of Brisbane Street and Homely Road there was a funeral undertaker's, but there was a bevel to the window at the door, and there was a guy on TV at the time, looked black and white, it was Harry Worth, and Harry Worth started it, and he used to stand on outside a similar type of shop, and you lift one arm and leg so it looks as if your 2 arms are going up, like, you know, there used to have wee puppets you would pull and the arms and legs, so it would be like that. You'd always check, make sure there wasn't a few, and then go on to school.
And did you go into the centre of the town at all?
Oh aye, we always, that was a big treat. There would probably be about 6 of us for protection, because when you went into the centre of the town you met people from different areas, like the Govan area or maybe the Gorbals, so you were protection in the fact that there were 6 of you. There wasn't really fights when we were young. We were only about 7 or 8 anyway, but there was protection having some of the older boys with you. And Lewis's would be the store we would go to on Argyle Street, because that was a land of milk and honey, actually. The toys department was on the 3rd floor, but you go up there and see the trains and the news toys that come out, and they seem to have quite a liberal policy. They would allow kids to wander about. They always had security guards on every door, at every floor, but they were, I never remember getting any trouble with them at all. They were just like you about, but we were quite well behaved as well. We didn't pick up toys, or there was none of us that were tea leaves stealing the stuff. That we'd look at the toys and just imagine having a gun like that, or an outfit like that, a cowboy outfit like that. Davy Crockett was very popular at that time, and eventually I did get my Davy Crockett hat, which I used to wear, and I got a toy rifle at Christmas that I used to love.
It was my mum or one of my older sisters would take us in, and we would wait in the queue, of course, and actually I think I was scared of Santa. I think I can remember crying, so I could, because of the big beard and all that, you know, and he just spoke to you, sat you on his knee, asking what would you like him to bring you for Christmas, and I think I said I didn't play with dolls because I played like football. I asked for a football, you know, and says, you want a football? And I went, you know, and so obviously I got a football, and but yeah, I think I was fear. And then when you were finished speaking to Santa, you got your picture took, you know, and then you got like I think it was like a wee selection box or something. You got, you know, so yeah, but you had to wait ages in the queue. So you did. It was queued right away, like miles it looked like at that age, you know. But yeah, I think the first time I saw Santa, I was scared. So I was, you know.
We were given the choices at a Santa in Arnott's. Again, for Arnott's shop, that was kind of a cheapish kind of shop. So I used to go in like there all lengths of the time again, because the parents not an awful lot of money, because you had to pay to see Santa. Again, I wasn't aware of this at the time, but you had to pay, queue, go and see Santa sort of thing, and you would get a present. I used to have a Santa in Lewis's, which again was a wee bit more at market, so it was a wee bit more expensive. And then if you were really flush, you would go to the Santa in Fraser's. But compared to likes of, you know, the other shops, it was really, really expensive. What we would normally do is, rather than going to see Santa in Fraser's, they used to put on fantastic displays for the toys in Fraser's, and it was all kind of like some mechanical. You would have like some the mannequins moving, you would have like some toy trains going around all like the time. Some of them would go around because at that time it was, I used to call them, I couldn't say a locomotive, I just called it a puff train, you know, because you'd see the puff of smoke coming out from like the front. So you used to see like the toy trains going around, and some of them would have this puff of smoke coming out from the funnel. And it was good to like sort of watch. We used to get a bus to take us up to Charing Cross, and then got another bus which would take us all along Sucky Hall Street, because that's where the lights started from the beginning of lights of Charing Cross onto lights of Sucky Hall Street. That's where the lights started, all the way down to Buchanan Street. The bus would take us down Buchanan Street along Argyle Street, and then I can't remember, because a lot of the roads have been closed into one-way streets. It's been such a long time, but there used to be a bus that would also take you around George Square, and of course you had all the Christmas decorations lights of there, and they would do up the centre of lights of the square. You'd have your large Christmas tree, I think it's Lord Nelson, that's the middle one in the large column, and they used to have tinsel from the top all the way down to the bottom of lights of that, and all of course the fancy lights on the lamp posts, and sort of the ribbondy ones going across.
Your memories of the high streets at Christmas?
Lively, busy. There's just an atmosphere, I think, as well, with smog and soot and rain and snow. It was just a bustle, real bustle, people everywhere and excitement. We would go into Lewis's and go up. There was a back stair you would go up, and you'd wait in this queue to see Santa at the top. And funnily enough, I was in what was left of Lewis's at the time before everything kind of closed down, and the staircase was still, it just came back. It was quite amazing. I went through kind of a back corridor. And the top floor, they also had to lure the children, and people didn't have a lot of money then. I always remember the dolls were on this top row, these great big walkie-talkie dolls that my brother eventually bought for me, because I'm the youngest of 8, so money was quite tight. So my brother got from his wages and saved up and got me the stall, which I still have.
Do you remember any high street processions, parades or carnivals?
Not really. As I say, we didn't really go into town that much. And even when we did go into Glasgow Street, I can remember my mother sort of making sure I was kind of decent with clothes because we're going into big stores. And so I had to look, reasonably good. Sometimes I'd be wearing my school uniform because that was the only nice clothes I had. But I don't remember any kind of... the only things I do remember is maybe at Christmas time. So there'd be the kind of lights going across the streets and George Square, and that was all lit up with decorations. And then the big stores, the big shop windows, they'd be all kind of lit up, nice lights and decorations. But in terms of marches or carnivals and such, I don't recall. The only thing I recall in terms of carnival was going along to the Kelvin Hall. They used to have a carnival inside. So I remember going along to that, and that was good. So you went into, it was just a massive hall, and there was all sorts of fun fair rides you could go on, and you could get candy floss, and it'd be very, very noisy because it'd be, the various sort of things would have music blaring out. So it'd be full on overwhelming. You could get hot dogs and all that kind of stuff. So you'd go on the rides. I think my favourite was the kind of the horror thing, ghost train. So you'd go on a ghost train and you'd hear lots of screams and things like that. So yeah, just going on the various rides, eating candy floss and having a hot dog, things like that.
First memories would have been in the 60s, because obviously Mum was a big shopper. I think I inherited it from her. Mum was a big shopper, and we've always gone into town of a Saturday afternoon. That was the ritual. Leave Dad at home watching the wrestling on the telly, and we would go into town and browse the shops. Obviously my experience and my interest changed as I aged. But the most vivid and probably funnest memories was the 70s. The boutiques, just as boutiques were starting and working in them. First Saturday job was John Smith's bookshop, and they put me in the art department. I was in heaven. Sitting, reading art, I think I read more than I sold. We had this uniform of little Laura Ashley smocks, and that was heaven. And then latterly it was Chelsea Girl Saturdays and holidays. But the boutiques are mainly what I remember. There was one on Argyle Street, I think it was along near here, called Capricorn, and it had like white stucco pillars outside, and it was meant to look like pillars on the moon or some sort of planet. And it was just as all the boutiques were starting up, and what an experience they were, because they were so different from the shops where your mum would take you. Because hers was like Richard shops and, mainstream. Oh, and the boutique floor in C&A's. They used to have a little boutique on the first floor. Can't remember what it was, clockwork. And it was always going in there of a Saturday, and the quality must have been dreadful. But it was styles like you just hadn't seen, or styles like you saw in magazines.
Where was C&A?
C&A was what became TJ Hughes, just along from here on Argyle Street. It was TJ Hughes, I think it's closed as anything now, but it was there for years and years and years.
Apart from the shops that you worked in, what other stores do you remember well?
I remember the Riggs boutique in Goldberg's, and I remember another boutique. This was after I'd started work. I started in 78, so this would have been late 70s. There was another boutique along where Evans is now, but it used to sell Bieber makeup. And I loved Bieber makeup, and I had some of the bottles for the skin stuff for years and years after that. Black with like the Bieber logo, very 20s. Because I loved Bieber makeup. I loved all the sludgy dark colours. Loved that. And I bought a beautiful black leather handbag from there as well. And it's the first place I ever used my brand new sparkly access card. And other ones were like, going back previously Richard's shops, because Mum was a cleaner in there, so she got a discount. And I remember her buying me a coat out of there for one Christmas. It was floor-length black velvet with a hood, with white fur right round the hood, down the front, round the bottom and round the sleeves. And I wore that over an evening dress my choir was singing Glasgow Cathedral one Christmas, and we were doing the Vivaldi Gloria and the Forthright Requiem. And I remember wearing that coat over my evening dress. I remember walking home from that with my squeeze of the time, and it was snowing gently, and we walked home from Glasgow Cathedral to Cart Road in this gentle snow after I'd been singing Forthright Requiem. And it was just one of those little magical vignette moments in life.
We used to, as I say, we used to go in to look at shops as well in the town, the dress shops. Sellings was a great shop for suits, and you would go to the more expensive shops just to look. You couldn't buy suits out of Fraser's or Watt Brothers and all that. These shops were more expensive, so we used to go to the Granite House. The Granite House used to sit just down the road there, actually, at Stockwell Street, and it was cheap suits, but it was Italian suits. The grey suit with a pinstripe was very popular, and you wore a tied hanky that matched, and you were the bee's knees if you had that kind of style. And the shoes were very important at that time, because there were winkle pickers came out, pointed toes, and my sisters used to say, don't just get the ordinary winkle pickers, get gunmetal, or get the bronze shoes, because they're different and you'll stand out, you look different then, and you'll be right snazzy.
We would go in to Littlewoods. I remember going into Littlewoods and seeing A's. I remember seeing A's, and because things come back when you mention a shop, it's like fluffy. It was like a 3/4 jacket. It was all like teddy bear type things with this hood. And my mum came in with me because you didn't have money to buy. I don't know what it'd be, £2, £3, £4, but I wanted this other one. But that was maybe another few shillings more, so it was too expensive. I remember going in to. We had what they called a line for the warehouses, so you would get this basically like a tick, but you would never say that, to go into Bremner's, Telford's, and there are other stores that I didn't know, but these were just off Argyle Street. So we'd go in there and get a line and try clothes on. Then a man whose name was Mr. Wright, I can remember, from Clarkson Road, he would come round every Friday or every other Friday, and you would pay, I don't know what it would be. I remember there, and the music shops I used to like, Gollum's at Trongate. My friend worked in, I think it was Patterson's at the top of Buchanan Street. It was a sheet music place. There were no HMV shops then. There was Cuthbertson's, J.D. Cuthbertson's in Sucky Hall Street. Much later I worked here for a wee while. And it was commonly known in Sucky Hall Street, the wee ladies used to go into Daly's, Copeland, all the big stores, and they would come in all nicely dressed, and they had to have their wee lemon and white, Trerrells was the other one, have their wee bags, and come in. I would come into Cuthbertson's, have a tea or look at sheet music, and they would come in there. But my daughters laugh at me now because these old ladies used to have the lipstick on. They might have been about 85, and it'd be all over their mouth, their face. And here's my daughter saying to me, "Mum, you've got it on your teeth." I'm like, "No," because thanks to my dad, not that he wore lipstick. I mean, he had thin lips. You know, I'm like, "Thanks, Dad." You know, big ears.
We were you would say like it's a low income family. You know, all the money that my parents like have earned went on to the kids for paying for the house, the household utility bills and stuff like of that. So they went really well. So Goldberg's was good because at that time you classed it as being, you got your clothes and stuff like of that on Chitty. Another place it would be on Tick. There it was done in a card. And so you would get the items, you'd put it onto the card, and then you would decide from that how often you would pay, and you used to have like a cashier section. I think it was the third or the fourth floor. It was the floor just below the top floor, and I can't remember as I say if there was 4 floors and there was offices on the 5th floor, or if they actually used the 5th floor. And they would go, like my parents would go there, I think once a week, and pay so much off of likes of that bill. And I think everybody, I mean, I can't think of nobody that would really sort of not do likes of that, because it was a good way of likes of getting the latest fashions, other items, good sports goods, shoes, hats and all likes of that, not having to pay for it there and then, because a lot of people, again, being low income, they would don't get the wages at the end of the week. So it gave them the opportunity when the wages came in, they would pay so much more off until it was all paid off, or if they could afford to, they would pay it all off.
The Barras was this amazing, bustling, noisy, thriving place with people all over the place, and stallholders shouting and trying to grab your attention, whether it's selling, sort of life-size dolls or cutting material or pots and pans, and there'd be all sorts of characters at the Barras, people playing instruments or dancing. Paddy's Market was kind of really interesting because I knew it was for the poor people, so I remember the kind of cobbled stones next to the railway arches. I can remember the kind of damp smell, and I think the kind of the rain pipes on the arches would be broken, so there'd be water gushing. I remember there'd be kind of a blanket on the ground and loads of stuff, just clothes piled onto the blanket. So my mother would have to rummage through kind of layers of mangled, tangled clothes and stuff. Occasionally you'd have a bit of excitement when you saw a rat. And again, just layers of clothes and the smell of mothballs and that sort of thing. And also the smell of, there's one or two of the arches that down at the bottom would be a cafe, so you get the waft of boiled cabbage and potatoes and ham, or ribs and peas and vinegar, that sort of thing. So really kind of basic smells, cooking smells, and so the aroma of that would be wafting along the arch.
What else did you spend your wages on at the age of 15?
Oh, clothes and makeup and perfume.
And where did you buy them from?
Oh, I'd have bought the clothes in the boutiques or the Barras. Barras was a big thing. Me and Mum used to go to the Barras, and Mum, like me, has a really good eye for like vintage and the unusual. And I remember her buying me, it was because there used to be a lot of, they would call them vintage clothes stalls now, and they would charge an arm and a leg. Then it was a rummage sale of stuff from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. And she bought me this beautiful black silk 1930s cocktail dress, and it cost 50 pence. So we would always, Mum and I would always go to the Barras, and we would just rummage these stalls. And I think that's where either I got it genetically from her, or I learned it from her by osmosis, I don't know. But I've still got a love of rummaging, hence the charity shops. Still got a love of rummaging, and by God, I can spot something a mile off.
What were the Barras like back then?
Oh, very different to what they are now. They were loud, they were raucous, they were smelly. You could smell the donuts frying, the fried onions, music blaring from all different stalls, competing with each other. Overriding memory of Righteous Brothers' Unchained Melody, for some reason, right next door to a stall that sold hot donuts fresh out the fryer. And things that were like, they're in packets now like Quavers, but these were hot, fresh ones right out the fryer. And I just remember those next door to this music stall playing Unchained Melody. Don't ask me why it was Unchained Melody, but it was. It's the thing that sticks in your mind. And there was the guys at the hawkers outside selling off lace curtains or china. It was like, not a pound, not 50 pence, 25 pence to you, missus. And it, all over the place. And it was loud and it was busy. But you never felt threatened. It felt safe and friendly, and it was Glasgow. It was the essence of Glasgow back then.
Well, the Locarno was a dance hall to go to. Well, there was other dance halls as well. The Barrowland, Geordie's Byre, that was the place. Geordie's Byre was beneath the ordinary dance hall, and that's where you got the groups we graduated to in the town, called the Picasso Club in Buchanan Street. And on a Wednesday night, you used to get all the musicians coming in for the Marmalade and Studio 6 and the Pathfinders and the Ecolettes. There was another group that was at that time. But they all used to come in and listen.
Which was your favourite dance hall?
At that time, it wasn't so much my favourite, it was just the one where we all went, Tiffany's. Originally, for my parents' time, it was called the Locarno, and then it became Tiffany's. And then, I'm not sure if when I was 18 or that, in the Savoy Centre they had a discotheque in there just called the Savoy, on the top floor where the Savoy shopping centre is. And then further down from the likes of that, it's now burnt down. Next to where the Lord's Bar was, there was another section there, and there was a discotheque on the top floor. It had different names at the time. The Garden, the Ivy, stuff like that. And then another one we used to go to. Some people, it's changed its name. It used to be in Bath Street, and it was where, again in the basement, and it was called Cleopatra's. But of course, again, we called it Clatty-Pats, because it's the only discotheque I've been in where when you were in there, you had the wooden dance floor, but it was surrounded by sawdust. They didn't have a carpet. Well, they had a carpet at the entrance, but when you went into the actual building, and I've never seen that in pubs, yes, in sort of later years, but that's in disco.
Locarno at that time was quite a dangerous place, because you got gangs from all over Glasgow that would go in, and you wore suits at that time, and you get some gang members that used to, if they buttoned up 2 buttons and the bottom was open, they would be from a certain gang, maybe from the Toy, Carlton Toy or something like that, or the Billy Boys from Brigton. So you had to be careful, you had to be focused on what was going on around you. And the American sailors used to go there as well now, at that time, because in the Holy Loch, the Proteus, was it the Proteus? The big ship was in there, the submarines in there, nuclear submarines in there at that time, that they used to come on a Saturday night. So you would always get trouble. You'd always get some fight on a Saturday night. You'd always get a guy from one of the gangs would challenge an American sailor, and you would turn with fisticuffs. But it used to be big band music, and Maggie Bell actually, who became a big singer with the Taggart theme, she sang in a big band at that time, and there was quite a lot of musicians later went into bands. I think that Frankie Miller actually played in a band at that time before he went into the Stoics, a group he formed in the Stoics, and then before he made the Frankie Miller band. But there was a lot of great musicians at that time in these trying to make money, trying to make a living, and a few of them did make it. It was great. It was great, the music scene. Yeah, the Elizabethan Club was another club which was down in the Broomielaw, which was a trendy place to go to, because it was quite important to say, where were you on Saturday night? Oh, I was at Locarno. Where were you? Oh, I was at the Picasso. And that was a kind of upper class, because you get a more hippie type, or a more the inset before hippies came, right enough, but it was a trendier place to go to.
Worked in there's a cafe that's still there called Cafe Gandolfi in the Merchant City. So I used to work in the kitchen there. When I was a student, I had about 3 part-time jobs to survive. And so I remember working there and enjoyed that. That was really nice because it was a nice kind of, at the time, a trendy place to go, and it was nice to be associated with working there, and you get nice people in there as well, nice clients, customers coming in. So I worked in there. I worked also in a bar called Squires on the corner of West Campbell Street and West George Street, I think it was, a basement pub, which was also a gay pub. Because when I was 21, I came out as gay, so it was, yes, that's so funny, yeah. So I worked in a gay pub, and that was good. Again, a great crowd, a great team to work with, and the customers that came in were fabulous as well. So worked there, and also worked in a place called, what's it called, the Q Ball. So this was a kind of leisure centre in the south side. I think it was Calder Street, just near Pollokshaws Road. And the thing I remember about that is the uniform. You had a little kind of pink and white striped shirt with a collar up like that, and a bow tie, grey bow tie, and a little waistcoat and stuff like that. But it was essentially a leisure centre, so it had kind of a spa type facilities, but also snooker tables or pool tables and a bar and a restaurant. So I was a barman in the Q Ball at the time. So I was pretty busy in terms of jobs, but it just gave me that kind of wonderful experience of dealing with all sorts of weird and wonderful people, which I loved.
You know, and then I think my next job was in the Rotunda at the exhibition centre. They had like a cafeteria on the basement, on the ground floor. Then it was the Italian restaurant, and then on the 3rd floor it was the French restaurant. You know, so the Italian restaurant I worked in, and the head chef then was Claudio. He was obviously Italian, and the owners that owned it, they were Italian as well. It was like Mario Romano and Palladini, and I think the two of them were brothers. They were good bosses, strict, but they were good, you know.
What was the restaurant like?
Oh, that was busy, especially if there were any events on at the exhibition centre. As soon as the doors opened at 5 o'clock, then because we had a pre-theatre menu on, and it was you could get like a combination like pizza pasta, and yeah, it was chock-a-block. So it was, and even you were getting ones coming in after the concert. So maybe sometimes you didn't finish till 12, 1 o'clock. By the time you cleared up and prepped up and all that, and by the time you get home, you couldn't switch off. You had to wind down, you know, and then you were back up at 7 o'clock in the morning for to go back in at 9.
Pavilion was fantastic, the atmosphere. You'd maybe have on a Saturday have the matinee, and then at night, it's just so uplifting for people and families, and it's just all the lights and the merriment, the dancers and the singers. You can't help get just involved. You're in another world. The Brendan O'Carroll troupe, and Mrs. Brown started there in, what was it, late 90s, early 2000s. Let's say they were booked in for 3 weeks. So the first week, you know, it was 2 for 1 and trying to get people in the door. And by the end of the 3 weeks, you know, tickets were just going out the door. Fantastic impact. So that helped boost the pavilion sales general. So they needed the pavilion, and the pavilion needed Brendan O'Carroll, but they were a great troupe. And Brendan O'Carroll was quite just says what he thinks. He doesn't really care, and he is so funny. But they had a bit of a tiff on something. So Brendan O'Carroll took over the sound box. So when you're told to go back, invited to go back to your seats, 3-minute call, 2-minute call, 1-minute call, usually, go back to your seat. So he got into the box and he locked the door and he used some choice language like he does on stage, like, would you all get back to your seats? So that was the first 3-minute call, then the second, so it just started to escalate. And meanwhile, the manager's banging the door, until eventually got to the 1-minute call, get back to your seats. But so the show has to go on, as they say, the show must go on. And they eventually patched things up afterwards, but he was so funny.
Latterly, the various clubs through the mid later 70s, we used to go from college to. Never went to the Savoy or any of the more what you call 1820s type clubs. Disco was big then. That's we were in. It was one on Sauchiehall Street along near Charing Cross. Wasn't the Savoy and it wasn't Locarno. I can't remember what it was called back then, but that is what turned me off the idea of white underwear. Dancing with a guy wearing black trousers, the UV lights were on, and all I could see was this little pair of white pants dancing about the floor. Ever since then, it's been flesh tone or black underwear, just in case of UV lights. And then latterly going to. There was a club open down on the Clyde side when they regenerated all along the Clyde side, and there was pubs and restaurants and clubs right along there. Used to go to that and when I was at college again, late 70s, going to an Indian. We used to go every couple of weeks up Sauchiehall Street again near Charing Cross, called Jamil's. Absolute dive. As you walked along it, your feet stuck to the carpets. They built beer in pint pitchers. Every time we went, we got food poisoning. But the food was so good, we never stopped going. It just tasted so good at the time. Big squad of us used to go.
Some of us, I think, still enjoy going into stores and shops and touching things and maybe trying things on. But for me, I'm quite happy just to order online. If something doesn't fit, I just send it back, return. So my experience of shops and stores in the high street is I'm not a consumer anymore in that sense. I go to coffee shops. I take my book and my headphones and I can enjoy a coffee and people watch and that sort of thing. So that's more of a positive experience of being in the high street than going in to buy stuff as such. Yeah.
Where's the best place to people watch, in your opinion?
Well, for me, I regularly go to the place called Brewdog, Merchant City in Hutchinson Street. I've actually got a discount card. I've actually got shares in Brewdog as well. But and part of my discount is I get free coffee, so I can go there every day and get a free coffee. So I get my free coffee. I've got my book. I've got my connected to Wi-Fi, check my messages, and I can look out the window and see all the people going up and down Hutchinson Street. I just ponder about, I wonder where they're going, where they come from, what's going on in their life. And I love the architecture there, and even the new builds, the buildings, sort of new student accommodation and things there. It looks quite kind of exciting because it was just a wasteland, I think, previously. There's a kind of a buzz, a vibe, an energy, which is enjoyable to be in, to be around. So that's a positive